Open the forum to the audience. Do anyone have a question for the attorneys or for Lavanya?
Yeah, I have a few questions for the attorneys. The first one, Miranda rights, when we should invoke Miranda rights in attorney's perspective, and when CPS is interrogating us, can we invoke it?
So my advice would be to, it's not so much a formal invocation. Like, I don't think you would need to say, I'm invoking my Miranda rights. They might not know what you're talking about. They don't perceive themselves in the same way that the police understand their role. But I think it's as simple as saying, I can't talk to you right now. Can you come back another time? Can we schedule a time to have this conversation so that you can then go back and speak to an attorney or get advice, or, even just calm down, get your kind of ducks in a row. You certainly don't have to talk to them ever at all, unless there's an order, a court order, or that you certainly don't have to allow them in your home ever at all. But you just give yourself that time to think through what's going on, what help can I get. I would do it immediately, and it can be in a very calm fashion of just, can we do this another time? Can you come back tomorrow when I'm available?
Yeah. So, time, anything may happen to anyone. It is uncertain. So in that kind of situations, how do we reach you guys?
So that's a real challenge. I think, ironically, the system, at least in my experience, primarily targets people who are marginalized in some way. People of color, poor folks, people who don't have a lot of resources. So a lot of the legal resources are actually aimed towards that community, people who can't necessarily hire an attorney. So it can be actually challenging if you're in a situation where financially you are able to hire an attorney in a CPS proceeding. There's not that as many attorneys available. And so in New York City, we have a really robust representation. In New York State, it's getting better, but depending on where you are, it is challenging to find an attorney. I would start with your local bar association. You can look at, if you're in New Jersey, it's the New York Bar Association. The American Bar Association has a website, just somewhere to get in touch with someone who can then probably refer you to an expert.
Okay, sounds good. And there are cases like, mom being in H4 dependent status, and husband, due to incompatibility issues, they got separated. But considering the financial situation, the child is being with the father, and the mom's parental rights are denied, and they have to go back due to their status because they are legally separated. In those kind of cases, even child's welfare is also impacted, right? So how law is helping in those kind of situations? How it makes sure the mother is also in touch with the child?
Shannon, I'm not sure if you have a thought, but the one thing I can say is that's where custody proceedings come in. So it's like a different kind of family law. It's not CPS. It's just a between two parents ironing out where the child will live, who will make the decisions, if the child is going to live with both parents, like on what schedule. Obviously, that's something parents can just work out without a court order or this court proceeding. But if they can't agree, then some sort of court order would allow everyone to be on the same page about how decisions for the child are being made and where the child is going to reside.
Okay.
And there is a question from the audience in the chat. Can a family trust be a member of a LLC to avoid probate of ownership in the LLC?
Yes. Generally, yes. Yeah, you want the LLC interest should be owned by the trust.
And I understand Ms. Saru Ilangovan has a question. Ma'am, please go ahead.
One question. The person from India or wherever lands in United States, and what is the most simple channel to write will and trust, if you recommend that seriously?
And I'm sorry, where are you located? Or where's this person?
Okay, I am located in Pennsylvania, but my picture is not showing. 1 second.
I see you.
Okay. Can you see me?
I can see you.
Okay, all right, that's fine. So I have to close the chat. Okay, there we are. Yes, if you could take 100 Tamil people, not 5 people, a handful would have written something. But many of them don't have a thought about anything emergency. So it's the way of life in India, So here we have to change the whole perspective. And we see, I have been living in the state for more than 40 years. So I myself was like that. So we just recently wrote a trust, a special need trust. And it was very time consuming and economically challenging. So if someone comes here to start new and something might happen to them, and what would you tell them to how to go about it most simplest way? Can you explain anything like that?
Yeah. So there are some programs, like I know in New York, there is a program where they, you can help people do their last will and testament, who can't otherwise afford it. There are online programs. So I would say at the least, you can do like a legal Zoom or something like that. I mean, it's not going to be as comprehensive as you have with a lawyer, but that's a place that at least you can get some of the basic documents done. I would say call around to local lawyers and see. A lot of times, local lawyers, for some basic documents, it might not be that expensive. So I would recommend using a lawyer just because a lot of things can go wrong with the online program. But just tell the lawyer you just want something, you just want it really simple, to just for a starting, just to cover the basics. But there also may be programs in your community that will do it to help you.
Yeah, they're talking about advanced medical directive, living bill online, get it filled out and go to the notary and get it notarized, and that one at least ready. Is that okay? That's recommended. Is it?
Yeah, I would say the healthcare proxy, or whatever they call it, medical power of attorney, it's called by different names. That's probably the one document that I do tell clients, like if you wanted to do that on your own, that often doesn't even need to be notarized, you just need 2 witnesses. And then in terms of like the power of attorney, which I think is really important, everybody really needs to have a power of attorney, because like I said, if your spouse is incapacitated, you don't necessarily have the ability to make decisions for them. And different states have different forms, and some of them are pretty simple and some of them are really complicated. New York is really complicated, so I wouldn't really recommend doing that one on your own, but some states, it's simpler, and so you might be able to do that on your own, and just in terms of like getting an online version. And some of these even have like a lawyer review option as well, so just to do something like really basic.
Okay, one attached question. You live in a state and then you have to move to another state. You already made a bill in the other state. Do you have to change it wherever according to that state?
In most cases, it's going to be effective in whichever state you end up in most cases.
Oh. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So
wonderful presentation, really very nice.
Can poverty be equal to negligence? Poverty or not being rich, or having a standard salary or a below standard salary, can somebody say that she's not able to provide the child, so she's neglecting the child?
Unfortunately, the way that neglect is often defined in the law, it can be interpreted that way, that if you're not able to provide for your child financially, that's neglect. A lot of states have laws that try to minimize that. So in New York, for example, the law says, it's neglect if you fail to provide for your child, if offered the resources to do so. So even after being offered the resources, if you fail to provide for your child, that would be considered neglect. But I'm organized with parents a lot and do a lot of advocacy work, and a lot of the families I work with feel that they are being kind of prosecuted or targeted because they don't have access to a lot of resources. And then the other side of that is, when the judge is making that best interest determination, and we talk about subjectivity and bias and things like that, sometimes a parent or family member's access to resources can become part of the assessment of what's best for a child. And I'm not a proponent of that, but unfortunately, I do think it can come in as a factor.
I mean, I'm sure you have dealt with so many cases. Like, is there a common issue which you frequently see?
Yeah, there are a few categories of types of allegations that we see really regularly. As you can imagine, what in New York State is called excessive corporal punishment, essentially hitting your child. And different states have different laws around what is permitted in terms of physical discipline. There is also allegations around a parent's mental health, if their mental health is like impacting their ability to parent their child. And then another common kind of category of allegation we see is if there's any sort of conflict between parents, whether that's verbal or physical.
Okay. I guess we can conclude the panel discussion.